Welcome to the Vision Profiles podcast. Join us, two dedicated Apple Vision Pro users, as we dive into everything from hardware and software to apps and the latest updates in the world of Apple Vision Pro. And in fact, if you were watching the pre-show, we were doing the updates in the Apple Vision Pro. I'm Marty Giannandrea, a faculty member at a Midwest University, podcaster, and an Apple product fan.
I'm Eric Bolden. I work with IT, but my interest is in finding interesting ways to share content, photography of plants, birds, panoramic sequences, and I am sure something else. I want to come up with something dangerous.
Really? Yeah.
Whitewater canoeing over waterfalls while I'm wearing my headset.
Or Mumbly Peg or something like that.
I'm not going to be climbing up any cliffs, though.
So we were honestly sitting around. We were sitting around before the show trying to see if Daniel was going to come in. And, we didn't bother to check the show notes because written right in the show notes is Daniel, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry, guys, I can't make it tonight. Count me in. Count me in for next week. So we're going, I wonder if Daniel's going to make it. What are we going to do here? So what's new with you? Anything new in the world of Vision Pro?
Not yet. Well, I'll know after the show when I finally get to reboot and check the new update. Yeah, there's some neat stuff coming out there. We'll talk about that when we get to the apps.
Okay. All right, cool.
There was a lot of commentary there.
Yeah, I'm going on a trip tomorrow morning. So we're recording this at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll finish the show, probably around 10:15 or so. And then I've got to produce it and get to bed and pack at the same time because I'm taking a bunch of equipment with me, and then get up at 5:30 to drive off to go get a flight. So I'm getting ready to go. So I've got my Vision Pro in the background already updated and now trying to download some movies so I can have that. And at the same time, I'm charging my 2 batteries. So probably around 8:30 tomorrow morning, I will be sitting in first class drinking Virgin Bloody Marys and watching something on my Vision Pro headset nonstop to Orlando. So I've got about 4 hours there. Well, yeah, we'll see.
What airline do you fly on?
Out of Cleveland, I do United. Coming back, I couldn't get a nonstop, and I couldn't get a late night one because those either had been booked or disappeared. So I'm coming back a day late, but early in the morning, and I've got 2 stops with a 55-minute layover in LaGuardia. I hate LaGuardia. But Vision Pro's going with me. I'm bringing my new MacBook Air M4. I'm bringing a lightweight microphone, and we're going to try and do some podcasting. And I've got a power strip with, for USB-Cs to plug in. So, and an extra monitor, flat screen monitor. So I'm ready to travel and ready to get some work done while I'm there. So
one of the questions that have come up is a bunch of airlines are being more aggressive about not letting you take power, the little USB-C or USB-A power charger units on planes. And some of them seem to not be able to tell the difference between a power charger and the battery for an Apple Vision Pro. So I'm curious to know if you hit that.
I'm curious to find that out too. I plan to get thrown off the plane. Thank you. Just because they can't identify electrical equipment, I mean, that's on them. It's not on us. But I've got 2 batteries. Instead of taking a 140 or 200 watt charger to go along to recharge. I'm going to go with 2 batteries. That'll get me down there and such.
Yep.
And it's all
Nice.
in a nice little compressed case, which then sits inside of my carry-on. So I don't have to
Very
carry
nice.
the big marshmallow with me. So I'm happy and got some good movies planned. Okay, let's get to news. And this week we have some news. Well, we've got lots of little stories, and then we have the big story about the change up of who's in charge, who's on first. I don't know who's on second. Apple doing the shifting around of all of the folks in charge of Vision Pro to work on Siri. We'll get to that. We'll get to our opinions about that and our thoughts about it. There'll be lots of articles in the show notes that you can get attached either to the video video version of this show on YouTube or on the audio podcast. You'll also find the links in the show notes. But today was an absolutely crazy day. I wound up recording twice for this video project that I'm doing with people who are, folks in our field that were really tremendous. And they're up in age, and I want to get their stories before that. And so, of course, they all had to say they do it on the day that the day before I'm ready to get on a plane. So I spent a lot of time doing lots of video recordings, digital video recording through this computer, and at the same time trying to pay attention to what was going on with the Vision Pro. And it rings true. I think we're going to see these things on Monday. But we have the release candidate of 2.4 that has come out, and I noticed it around 5 o'clock today or 6 o'clock, and started trying to download it and get it all set up. And while it was downloading, trying to download movies for the trip, and at the same time trying to find out about it. And if you go to the Apple release candidate notes that you can find in the developer notes, I am at the point now where I can read through those things and not totally understand them, but know that the notes are the same from release to release. So if I have to be told in order to get my guest mode to work, the phone and the Vision Pro have to be on the same Wi-Fi and on the same beta release. That's been in there for the last 3 or 4 beta releases. And so reading through it, I can pretty much identify stuff that's there or not there. And frankly, there was nothing in there that made any new sense to me. Probably some things that might make sense to developers, but it's the same old, same old. So we now have the release candidate. Probably won't see any changes in that at this point. It is what they'll release in a couple of weeks or a week or so for Vision Pro 2.4. And still the same version of Apple Intelligence. So the magic didn't happen in time for it to happen. So the one thing I did notice was when I put it on, at least for the first time, it said, "Oh, are you a guest? Would you like to go into guest mode? Press the crown twice to do that." So that prompt is still there, at least in the first boot up of the new system. That prompt is still there,
Nice.
but really nothing much else new with it. Spatial gallery is still locked out from anything or contributing anything or having your own stuff put in there. And yeah, just not a lot of nothing, no new benefits from going from the last beta to the RC. So,
But the beta seemed to have been getting more and more stable over time. So
oh yeah, yeah.
I'll,
I,
if this one's better too, I'll take that.
Yeah. And then I guess we're going to have to wait later in the year till we get 3.0 in terms of the Vision Pro. So, and that's supposed to be magical, according to Mark Gurman. That's supposed to be chuck full of fun. There were some articles that came out that spoke about the enhanced um, guest user
Guest.
features. Yeah. Now that's this
That is.
graphic. That's the old one, isn't it? Yeah, this is the old version.
Hmm.
So they have a graphic of not the new version, but the pop up that says guest user share Apple Vision Pro within 5 minutes. Remember those days?
Yep.
Have you done more with guest account?
And I haven't done anything with it recently, so I can't remember if that still is there. I do know that, for a while I was thinking you could just hand it to somebody and it would just kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the last time I tried it, I actually had to go in and say, "Yep, turn on guest mode." But as you said, maybe it's different when you first boot up.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just happy that they keep changing it a little bit because they're realizing people are trying to share the device and are finally trying to make it easier. And it's nice that once you do share it, it sends us a message to your phone, and then you can interact from the phone, and it's a little easier to share the screen and stop sharing the screen and reshare the screen. So it's improving.
Yeah, they mentioned that you can start viewing mirroring with AirPlay to enable the primary user to guide the guests. So that's still, of course, a new feature that is not something that we've had before. The guest feature also retains the ability for guests to be able to save their eye and hand setup for up to 30 days after their last use. So if you're sharing it with somebody in the house, you only got to give them permissions every 30 days, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely a nice convenience.
This article is oh,
Well,
where am I
before
here?
before we go
Yeah.
there, I've got one question. So when you're using the Apple Vision Pro, if you pause for a bit, or if you need to kind of look at something not through the Apple Vision, do you just slide it up on your head, go do
Yeah, I
whatever,
do.
and then slide it back down
Yeah, I do.
so that you
It
don't have to start over again?
Yeah, and I was uncertain about I'll tell you this is how bad it was for me. I was uncertain about whether the thing would continue to do uploading or downloading, I should say, of movies and things like that. It was off my head. And
Hmm.
if it was, if I started the downloading of the new beta, that I have to keep it on my head for it to continue to do that downloading. And so I
Hmm.
would put it on my head and put it up on my forehead and, walk around with it for,
Yeah.
the 20 minutes or 30 minutes it required to do all that stuff. And tonight I had too much going on, so I took it off, and it seemed to work fine in terms of the upload and or the download of the movies, and also the vision, also
Hmm.
the new beta, or the, I guess, release candidate, we can call it now.
Yeah.
Um, and there were, I would put it back on. It's like, okay, the beta's there, or the release candidate's there. Do you want to load it? And so it would require me to do some things along the way, but I didn't have to keep it on my head in order to have it run. So we've got a couple of folks in the chat room. You can always join us in the chat room on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern time at youtube.com/@ vision profiles, and post questions, argue with each other in the chat room if you want. Um, just no gambling or betting. That's not allowed. Um, okay, so patently Apple. a new article by Patently Apple that talks about how Apple has filed for figurative trademark on Apple Vision's Spatial Gallery. So that lovely little symbol, and I saw it, but it's not here now. That lovely little symbol on the app is also now considered a patent. So people can't just come along and pick that thing up and mess around with the app or mess around with the icon for the app and
Yeah,
make changes.
under the title, you have to click on that, click to enlarge. Under the spatial gallery title,
There
scroll
we go.
down a tiny bit. No, it's down further. Sorry. It'll say spatial gallery there, right underneath that. Click to
Right
enlarge.
there, two
Yep.
times spatial gallery. That's what I just clicked. Oh, there it is.
And then you get the logo.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah. They're trying to, I can imagine why they'd want to do that. Trademarking, I guess it's more than just that little icon, but there are other aspects of the spatial gallery that they want to trademark in order to keep people from messing with the name and with the images that are associated with it. So, this sounds interesting. This next article, live 8K 3D streaming comes to Vision Pro. And this came out of Channel News. It uses Focal Points VRs and 3D 8K panoramic camera to create this 8K streaming potential. So they've come up with a combination of a compression that allows this to occur.
And it looks like it's fast enough for live events, so you might get your sports experience soon.
Yeah. Oh, we got a message here from Gern Blanston. I'm traveling in Malaysia now, and I'm joining you on Tuesday morning. Hey, Gern, I have been to Malaysia too. And I don't know what season it is there at this point. And it might be rainy, it might be hot. It could be rainy and hot if you're in Malaysia. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I would love to see some live streaming events. And I know that's been sort of the argument that that's going to require too much bandwidth and it's going to just too much strain on what you do. But it's all about the compression, as we know from the comedy show Silicon Valley. You get the fast compressions, you're able to do this. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
Can you explain this to me? Why we're interested in having tiny cameras in AirPods?
I don't remember. Was it clear about where they were putting the cameras?
Well, somewhere in the tiny ear. I hope it's not. Well, I hope they're not pointing towards my ear canal.
They aim the cameras at itself, and if they can see through to the other camera, then they know something. So
Actually,
if I remember right, it's for gesture control.
Gesture control. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, so we can then use those as another input device. So imagine you're wearing your Vision Pro and the gestures are all in front of your face. you now have gestures that you can take to the side. So they'll be able to be picked up through the tiny cameras. And Gurman says soon. And I wonder, they said if the alleged 2026 mass production timeframe remains on schedule, the new AirPods with infrared cameras could launch in 26 or 27. So you've got to wait, folks, for those magic tiny cameras. I always thought you could always point them inward and then use them as a device for like monitoring blood flow or heart rate or pulse. There's other kind of metrics you can get besides gestures. So
But
that'll be
I'm
interesting.
yeah, and I think this also is supposed to help with audio. So if you have spatial audio and you're trying to adjust where the apparent speaker is, maybe
Hmm.
it just gives an extra hint on where you are related to whatever the subject is.
Yeah, Gurn is postulating that this could be a bad thing in public restrooms, but I don't think so. Um,
I think they're infrared cameras, so it should be okay.
yeah, no capturing photos. So anyway, big news story this week: the movement of the person who was running uh, the Siri product, Giannandrea, is out as Siri chief. And why is that important to Vision Profile, folks? Well, because the person that's replacing him is Mike Rockwell, the Apple Vision Pro chief, and is now in charge of Siri. They are doing some things, according to Gurman, in terms of internally splitting the Vision Pro project from the Vision Pro kind of software folks. Um, and, what I've heard about Rockwell is that he is really good at setting his time and his goals and producing a product from 0 to 1, is what they say, from nothing to an actual product. And so maybe they're thinking they need that type of leadership in Siri right now, to improve and I shouldn't say Siri, but the S lady, um, or Sheila, as I call her. And so, maybe they're looking for that shift in management in order to have that.
When he
Uh,
should be reporting directly to Craig Federighi, which will
yep.
also help with the whole software integration and tie-in. And we probably should mention that uh, um, Giannandrea has done an awesome job with LLM development. That's
Yeah.
gotten better and better and better, and he's a lot of the reason why that works so well. But having a software crew that's tied to software user experience and making that all work and tying it to the right release schedules, that'll be a big help.
Yeah. Well, some of the stories said that the LLM stuff is great. Actually, the machine learning stuff is
Yep.
great. That's been around, but we don't, for some reason, we don't refer to that as artificial intelligence. But the machine learning is great. The LLM is good. I'll give you that. And the kinds of things that Apple Intelligence is doing is kind of very simple. It's not complex. So it's more really like machine language and learning LLM stuff than artificial intelligence. And so they've got to take it to the next step. And some of the stories is that the engineers figured out that they couldn't take it to the next step with the current combination of platforms around LLMs. You can't take an LLM and make it any contextual in any contextual sense. And so the fear rumor is that they're going to have to build it from the ground up. that might not be a bad thing, because to try and patch a system that isn't working to make it work versus just build it from the ground up, knowing what you've learned through the process could be probably a more efficient way of doing it. But everybody says, oh, if that happens, it's going to take forever. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we know that Apple will not talk about it. So we'll have some folks who are in the rumor mills talking about it or trying to find out something about it. But Apple's closed those doors up pretty tight lately. So, yeah, lots of articles on the Apple Vision Pro creator in charge of Sheila as Apple Intelligence rollout falters. Um, Apple's new shakeup proves that Sheila is now being taken seriously, and here's why. Vision Pro creator Mike Rockwell to lead Sheila team at Apple. And, there's like, what, I'm looking at 3 articles that are all 9 to 5 Mac that are essentially saying the same thing. Announcing the facts in one, announcing the facts in the other and what it might mean in the second one, and then speculating on what it means in the third one. And all of these have come out in like a 2-day or 3-day period. So people can't stop writing about this. Wait a minute, there's four articles from 9 to 5 Mac. Oh, but this last article, this is a different article. This I thought was kind of nice. Well, we'll get to that. Is there anything else you want to say about this new setup or new arrangement?
I mean, I think it's a good idea. Again, it's important to note that a lot of the development was done is really, really, really good. The promises of the conversational and more intuitive interactions with Siri, yeah, they didn't get anywhere near close to that. I think when they next make a promise, it's going to be something they can demonstrate.
Yeah. They're
So
gonna,
that's a
the
good
next
sign.
time, yeah, the next time they make a promise, they're gonna have people standing behind them with like their hands over their heads to make sure there are no strings or wires attached to it. Yeah, I think Apple has taken a hard hit on that one.
Yeah. Now,
Uh,
interestingly enough, there've also been some conversations on, you know, will we have to give up some privacy to make this work? And what does that actually mean? And it may just mean that, you know, you need to be able, kind of like what you can do in the health app, where you can put some information in to make the data make more sense. You know, maybe they'll have to let you add extra stuff to the address book or health app or whatever, and then that can be pulled together. I'm not sure.
yeah, some apps, because I've been loading apps this last week like crazy on my MacBook Air M4 in preparing for this trip. And when you load them up, you get all of these Apple so and so, or this app would like permission to do this. This app would like to permission to do this, and it's like there's a constant series of questions, and there's always one they sneak in there like, we would like to know about what other apps you use and whether we can have permission to send you, and I'm like, that you got to watch out for that, because that'll sneak up on you, and you got to say not allowed. Um, but imagine if you're doing a contextual service where you want your phone or your computer to be able to answer any possible question as it relates to a context about you. So even asking, if your mother's flight, when your mother's flight comes in, they're going to have permissions that would be, we're giving up something to get that. So they're going to have access to our book, our contact book. They're going to have access to maybe our email, where mom sent you when her flight was coming in. So I can see people getting a little freaky deaky about that one and worried out about it. If they have access to it and it's all anonymous within their servers and they're able to demonstrate how that is not kept in any reliable way, then I'm less worried about it. But the proof is on them when it comes to the privacy issues, if they're going to ask you to do a lot of things just to make sure that Sheila can do her job. So, all right. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I thought this was a nice article. This is the nice news of the day. So, I think the author of this is doing like a diary on Vision Pro, because
Yeah.
he makes reference to it later on in the article. But it's an article that says delightful experiences I've had with VisionOS so far. And I see there's 32 comments on it. I'm reluctant to go to the comment section because I'm sure some people in there are tearing them a new one. But navigating with the new area within Apple Maps, watching a 3D movie. Hey, we've known that since it's come out, but it's new to him. Voice first computing with Sheila. And I forget to use voice control or voice dictation all the time.
And searching too.
Yeah. So it was a positive article. I mean, it was like, this is what you're getting and more for what you're doing. So,
Even the comments are pretty good.
oh, okay. You went into the comments section.
Yeah, there's only one person that brings up the price, and most people also had good experiences or things that they really enjoyed. And even the people that weren't sure or had questions, it was either not with an Apple Vision Pro or that it was a good question. So
Can I respond to the comments of the guy who brings up, or person who brings up the price? Like, oh yeah, I can reply. So I want to thank him for letting us know the price. That's always been a question on my mind.
yeah, because you can't
Yeah.
look that up yourself. But I
Yeah.
mean it was reasonably um thoughtful comments. So it was good.
Yeah. Oh, there are 2 replies. But nobody thanks him for bringing up the price, because we need to bring up the price. Anyways, let's go
Yeah.
into this. I found this article and thought this is an article for Eric in terms of using Vision Pro workplace use cases. Yeah, and it is on XR Today, and I think Rebecca Carter must be on the Vision Pro beat, because she's posted before on Vision Pro. Immersive collaboration, Zoom app for Vision Pro, transforming data and visualization and design with 2D spreadsheets, or instead of sifting through 2D spreadsheets, teams can view data sets in 3D graphs or holographic charts floating right in front of them. I think that's an addition to Excel So
Wow.
I think she's talking about the Excel app because I wanted to see something transformative out of Microsoft, and I thought, oh, wait a minute, that's Microsoft. And but I heard that the app, I wanted to see these companies use the 3D spatial aspect of their software. Otherwise, the software is not taking advantage of the environment. And I heard that Excel does that, has the capability of generating 3D charts that you can, or graphs and such that you can see in
Hmm.
Vision Pro.
Hmm.
Um, and then other multitasking aspects. Hands-on training, we've talked about that in terms of using it for training and customer support. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty cool article. Cheers to Rebecca and XR today.
Yeah, I definitely need to do more playing with the collaboration part. I find I keep running out of time in my day, but who knows?
This article I thought was interesting because apparently it comes from the founder of Oculus, and um, it talks about how this founder, now MetaQuest, says that Apple Vision really represents the future in in this kind of work, and VR and AR, and that it's really forcing Meta to have to. It's pulling Meta along whether they like it or not. Um, I was telling people, listen, you have to realize what Apple's doing here is not trying to, with their first release, trying to make something that is for everybody. They are trying to drag something out of the future that really shouldn't exist until 2026 or 2027 and drag it into the present by making it ludicrously expensive. Uh,
Although, I mean, to be fair, if you had to cobble something together to show the things we can see now, it would
yeah.
be insanely expensive. So, you know,
And then I
I'm just
found
happy
this,
that everybody can play with it now,
yeah,
especially the content creators.
I found this article that was released. Usually I try to get articles from the last show to this show. This was released on the 14th, but it came up when I was searching for articles. And it really is kind of, um, it argues about whether Sheila being late is a big deal or not, and how to look at it in terms of Apple's history of innovation and execution. Um, so I will put it on screen. And what's really fascinating is the graphs that are in here that show the different products that have been produced and what's occurred in terms of their use.
Hmm.
Um, it talks about shareholder response and issues with that. Talks about the rocky start that's with the watch and the AirPods, but eventually they have become a $10 billion business. The car project and how that was started and stopped. And then with the idea of Vision Pro taking us to XR and AI. Vision Pro shipped as promised and worked as advertised, but it also was both too heavy and bulky and far too expensive to be a viable mass market product. Hugo Barra called it an over-engineered developer kit, which, was Daniel's claim when we were doing this, that this is meant to throw everything in, including the kitchen sink, and see what works and what doesn't, and then make the decisions around the product as a new version of the product emerges. It wasn't a concept. It wasn't a vision of the future. It was the future. Vision Pro is a concept or a demo, and Apple doesn't ship demos. So why did it ship the Vision Pro? What did it achieve? It didn't sell in meaningful volumes because it couldn't, and it didn't lead to much more developer activity either because no one bought it. A lot of people, even at Apple, are puzzled. So this is a long article, but it goes into things like Apple Maps. It really is interesting how now they're talking about Apple Intelligence later on in the article. So yeah, it's Ben Evans, ben-evans.com. Benedict Evans, who apparently has kind of a blog that he does, essays, presentations, things like that. But an interesting article. And again, you can find all of that and the links to it in our show notes for the show. That either in the video version of it on YouTube or in the podcast version in the show notes within the podcast app, your podcast app. So let's go into anything else at this point.
I guess the only other thing I would say is that the last article you were talking about, where they said the Vision Pro as a demo, why did they do it? The first experience people have watching an immersive video and actually seeing it in person is something you can't really read about. You can only experience. So I think maybe they underestimated how much of that kind of getting everybody used to it they'd need to do, but the knowing that it's different from the Oculus, knowing that it looks better than what you've experienced in the past going to a 3D movie with whatever the glasses that they give out, that I think is important. It takes a little bit of time to build up the example that it's a difference, that it's different, and then making people then go out and say, well, okay, then how do we produce it, get the cameras, get everything else in place. All that needed to happen, because if they came up with a product that was cheaper, lighter, everything they keep saying they want to see, there would be no content for it, and it would still be a problem. So I think it's going as it needed to.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I thought about this too, and I don't know if we knew what to experience when we put it on our head, and because of that, it felt like a clumsy device. And the software improving is important, but even so, I had a Meta, so I owned a Meta, and but that has controlling devices, and it's a completely different way in which you move through menus than the way in which you do on an Apple Vision Pro or on any computer, really. So we didn't know what to expect when we put it on our head. So we have no benchmark by which to judge it by, other than it's strange, or I can't get this to open, or because I haven't kind of gotten the muscle memory of putting my fingers together and dragging it across the screen. I don't have to reach out and touch things. there's a whole bunch of it that seems strange and weird, which then I think we projected on the product and said, oh, it's just weird. It just doesn't work. It doesn't. No, I don't know how to work it yet. People aren't ready to say that. So the product gets, and you could argue, well, the product should make it so you know how to use it. But even so, I think they can tell you to spin in circles 3 times and then stop and lift one leg. But it's not a common process for humans at this time. Well, when it came out, for them to know how to use a device like that, or figure out these ways of using the device. So you have to kind of, if you erase the learning curve that we all went through to have to learn the device, um, because of the whole new form factor that we were working with, I think it gives what it promised.
Well, and Gurren also mentions, you can't explain the experience to someone. They have to they have to see it themselves, which I think is
Yeah,
also true. It also
yeah,
means it's really hard to go talk to somebody and say, hey, go buy a bunch of these because I think it's a good idea. And trying to do the justification is difficult unless you get a group and they've all kind of experienced it. So,
yeah, yeah. Or you're looking at a way for it to solve a work problem that it solves that you can't solve
yep,
in another way. Um, and it does do that. So let's get into apps.
yep, okay.
Um, and I can continue to download movies and snack and get ready for my trip tomorrow morning. Uh, this first one is new in the Apple Vision Store. I'm not sure if it's new, but it came up in as new and noticeable. Is the meditation timer or Zenitizer is what it's called. And
Hmm.
I think at this point the Apple Vision Pro um, product store has enough meditation apps in it. It's almost getting like the fart apps on the first iPhone. Uh, okay, we've got enough meditation apps. And so yeah, I went ahead and took a look at this, and it is really it doesn't give you anything but let me get to the Vision Pro version. Doesn't anything give you anything with your environment but a timer and a soundscape. And that was a little disappointing considering it was Apple Vision. Now you can see some awards for fantastic meditation app from Mac Stories. Or best, and that was 2000. No, they didn't say what year it was. 2023 best apps of the year in App Advice. Um, but there's really not a lot to it. I wish there was more. I wish there were ways that you could turn in environments. They have 4 or 5 different sounds. You want to do ocean? Do you want to do rain? Um, and then you can kind of set your timer. There is you know, your meditation is clutter free, which is another way of saying we didn't do anything but put a window up. Uh, and of course, they got my money. Um, for the purchase, the inside purchase, you can get, and I think it's a year subscription. I don't even think it's just a paid bonus. Let me see. Um, people have given it some good ratings, but this is also, oh yeah, Zenitizer Plus yearly for 19.99 or lifetime for $80 if I wanted to do that. So yeah, I probably should have gone with the monthly. but I did purchase the yearly, and so this puppy is with me for a while. I am not sure. There's 146 ratings. I'm sure it's not on. These are not ratings on the Vision Pro because it's on iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch also. So having that sort of spread, that's kind of cool. You can sync stuff up um, with, I think, with the Pro version of it. And it will do things like give you connect with your health apps and allow you to do some, yeah. Gern's saying meditation apps are the new fart apps. Yeah. And there are some great ones on Vision Pro that are made just for Vision Pro because you can't do that other stuff. The whole immersive experience you can't do on a phone. Um, so yeah, um, take a look at it if you want to see its capabilities and make your own decision on that. This next one is actually kind of one of my favorites. Particularly, do you do any mind mapping, Eric?
No, I watched the demos. It looks neat. I haven't. I like
It,
watching
it
other people's.
Yeah, and I know Allison Sheridan loves mind mapping and actually went
Hmm.
to one of my first Mac stocks where she presented, I might have been this app or something like it. I can't remember which one. Um, but this used to be MindNode Classic, and
Hmm.
now it's MindNode Next. So it's the new version of MindNode. And it's good for just organizing things. And for those of you who have projects, or those of you who have multiple projects, you could put each project on an arm with the things that you need to do with it.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it is pretty cool. And they don't have any videos here, do they? No. Paging through some of the pictures here. Um, yeah, lots of different options with this. And what's the cost? Is there a cost? There are subscriptions, both monthly and, but I'm not finding anything in here on, yeah, here we go. In-app purchases, yearly subscription is $24.99. Monthly subscription is $2.99. It's free, but I think probably with the added things that you can do with it, um, that's what the subscription fee will pay for that. So I
Hmm.
like it. I've used it on all different versions, and it's nice to see that it is part of the Apple Vision product. Now, this next app. I think is the one that you wanted to talk about, or it. I'm assuming it's one that you wanted to talk about.
It seemed promising. So as far as I can tell, it isn't actually a real app yet. I think this is a demo of a concept that they are thinking about. The developer's fairly enthusiastic and responds in Reddit, or if you reach out, and you can give suggestions at this point and try things. They've kind of changed the name and the description because of feedback. um this I did beta testing on a game earlier this year that caused me to feel somewhat queasy
Mm-hmm.
after 20 or 30 minutes. This one, you can achieve queasiness in a certain number of frames. It's it goes fast. So there are a bunch of guidelines when you're doing immersive filming. Like if you take your phone out or you take your Apple Vision Pro and try and record something, where they tell you don't move your head, keep it stable, don't change things around. And if you record a video and there's lots and lots of movement, it will flag it and say that there's a lot of motion to kind
Yeah.
of give you a warning. They didn't seem to really follow that. So my hope is, as they work on this app and build more scenes, they will discover image stability is good. I ran into some difficulties when I first launched it, trying to press the start button, because if I just looked and clicked on it, it didn't work. I actually had to poke my finger through the button a couple of times to get it to actually start. Not sure why. So it was an interesting concept. It feels like it could end up being really good. Um, the filming of it needs a bit of work. So if you are susceptible to getting sick, don't. Just stay away from this for a little while. If, however, you have a cast iron stomach, yeah, give it a shot. It's short. There are some comments online where they said they really couldn't get through more than a few seconds. It's not that much. It's not that much longer, so you probably could get through everything that's out there.
Yeah, I have this thing about main characters who have those super big eyes. Uh, like there's too much interocular pressure in there, and it's got to be relieved by having big eyes.
Yeah. Well, if you look too
Yeah.
closely at the hair, it's fake, like real fake. Like if you look at a doll where it's got the hair that's been pulled out, each strand kind of looks like that. It's. So I don't know. It was interesting enough for me to experience it and still be willing to talk about it afterwards. It took a couple hours before I was able to eat anything. And I'm currently I'm drinking a ginger sparkling water because it's helping to settle my stomach.
So you're recommending this to our viewers and listeners because,
I feel like the developer has the potential to make progress and it will get better.
yeah,
You maybe wait a while. I just thought I would mention it, if for no other reason than it looked like something that might be worth trying, and it's not far enough along yet, and you might get sick, so maybe you just want to skip it for a little while.
yeah. In Meta, if you've ever been in that environment, you want to purchase a game. I think the lowest level is like comfortable, and
Hmm.
I mean in terms of what you might get. And so I was doing comfortable for a long time, and then they had this like skydiving sort of thing
Hmm.
where it's like cliff diving with the suits that you can kind of,
Yeah.
and it was moderate, and I'm like, okay, well, I want to try this, and tried it, and jumped off a cliff, slammed right into the wall of another one, started over again, and slammed into a wall again. And I thought, this is not fun for me because I keep slamming into walls. And did it the third time, and then just got overwhelmed with I'm going to throw up, and wound up laying down on the bed immediately, and took the headset off. Um, so I'm kind of, and that stuff used to not bother me when I was younger, but I've gotten more bouts of vertigo as I get older. And I think that a
Uh-uh.
lot of people, older people, get vertigo. Young people do too. But yeah, this was like no fun for me. So I'm glad you're recommending this for other people to watch and maybe throw up their lunch.
Watch it on a mostly empty stomach.
Yeah, so you can have the dry heaves and a headache instead of actually messing your bed that you're falling on because you're not going to go anywhere.
It's very short.
Okay. Yeah, it's like a punch in the stomach instead of a long drawn out illness.
Well, that if you had that happen and then you fell over the edge of the top of an apartment and were falling, and on a windy day, so you were jiggling around while you were falling, then that would simulate it pretty well.
I've slammed into enough cliffs in my life. I don't need the experience again. And when you say the hair looks kind of fake, I don't know how to break the news to you, Eric. Everything in it's fake. This is not a documentary that you're looking at.
Yeah, so you know how you can get you can get simulations where they do a good enough job. It's harder to tell that it's fake hair. This is like the goal was creating fake hair from a doll, and they
So she's
simulated
got
that perfectly.
so she's got plugs, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And I felt like I had one of those plastic brushes that you could comb hair with, like with the dolls that had the hair that would pull out, and you just kept combing and doing stuff and trimming off and doing yeah.
We are learning way too much about what goes on in your head. Um,
Well, I have to say it hasn't been recently, but back in time.
all right, let's talk about Macstock. We have Macstock coming up July 11th, 12th, and 13th. It is a gathering of Mac-related friends in Woodstock, Illinois, or in close to Woodstock, Illinois. That's why it's called Macstock. And it's a great, great experience. You can find out about it at Macstock Conference and Expo, all one word. I have to remember it. Macstock Conference and Expo.com. And Mike Potter, who puts this whole show together, is connecting now, I know, with speakers and getting confirmations on what people have submitted for speaking. So he's building you'll be seeing who the speakers are going to be and what the topics are going to be, but it's great fun. Um, Eric and I met through another show before last year's Macstock and then got together at Macstock to do the Vision Pro thing. And we had 3 or 4 more people that showed up with their headsets, and we just sat in a room for the evening and people came in and we did demos, which will be a
Yeah.
lot easier this year once I've figured it out, if people still want to do that. But it's a great gathering of folks. People are very positive. You learn a lot, and great presenters all day long doing different kinds of things. I am going to be doing a presentation on the juicy parts of Apple Intelligence. And I'll probably be doing some things besides Apple Intelligence, but review what we've got at the time, which could be changing. And I hope to have more as it comes out. And then I'm doing a presentation with my son called well, it's I forget what it's called, believe it or not, but it's about tech gear that you can travel with, and I think we're going to do something creative in the sense of maybe taking ideas from the audience and having door prizes that we brought along, and somehow to mix it up so it's not just a straight sort of lecture. Or here's some things that I like because I bought them. Um, so there's going to be some exciting stuff in terms of presentations at Macstock. So I encourage you to check it out. Macstock Conference and Expo.com, and give you the information that's there. This is Macstock 9, I think. Macstock 9. I think it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
they did one that didn't get a number. And it might have been
Oh.
a virtual that we did or that they did one year, so it never got the number.
Hmm.
But it's a great experience and a lot of fun.
And fun
Anything you?
people too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And last year it's weird because Eric and I wound up sitting on opposite ends of the room, and so you were kind of with with a crew of people over there, and I was with a crew of people over on the right, and no meanness intended in saying that. Um, but the room isn't big enough to sit next to all your friends, I guess is a nice way of saying it, because there are plenty of friends around. And if you're new to it, the friends happen. They'll happen quite easily. I'm bringing with me my son, obviously, and Gary from a podcast I do called The Old Mac Gang. And he's tickled pink to come. The guy's 88 years old and he is
Wow.
just thrilled. He's been like listening to podcasts, trying to get people's names straight, giving me opinions on what he thinks of this show and that show. He's just excited to meet up with everybody. So that's kind of wonderful. So I'll do a wrap. Thank you for tuning in. We'd love to hear from our listeners. If you have ideas or want to join us on an episode, we can always use an extra. Just come in, be a guest. Gern, I'm talking to you. Come in, be and Cletus, come in, be a guest. We'll send you the show notes so you know what articles we're going to talk about. And just have fun with us. If you want to do that, email us at visionprofilespodcast@gmail.com or connect with me at Gencius@mastodon.social or Gencius at Blue Sky. Gencius is Gencius. Our bumper music is Free Jazzy by Steve Combs, courtesy of the Free Music Archive. Eric, where can they find you?
Oh, well, let's see. Probably the easiest is on Mastodon at EA Bolden at techhub dot social, I think. I never have to type myself. Yeah, this is what happens when you go and you ask me a question when I'm really not totally. Yes, techhub.social.
Okay. Um,
And, and of course, Monday nights, right here.
Yeah, right here. Monday nights, place to be. Gern asks, what does an 88-year-old think of a Vision Pro? I haven't been in proximity of Gary to be able to put it on his head. However, I told him, because he was going to go over to his local Apple store, and he lives about 40 minutes away from me. He was going to go to his local Apple store to pick something up. And I'm like, Gary, get a demo. And he was like, yeah, I should do that. And he came back and said, well, they were kind of busy. And the guy said, come over in the morning sometime and we'll get you set up for a demo. So I would like to see his reaction to it for trying that. You can learn more about us and the Vision Profiles podcast on our website, thepodtalk.net, and other shows that we do and other shows that we're involved in. Spread the word to other visionaries. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.